Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, August 5th, 9:30 p.m. Mountain Time 2024. An X 1.7 solar flare, followed by another solar flare in the X range, both of which on the limbs, neither of which is headed towards Earth, but the sun is active, and we're keeping a close eye on Tropical Storm Debby, as she is about to dump some historic rainfall totals in South Carolina. Keep calm. It's boom time. 4 dead as Hurricane Debby hits the Florida coast. At least 4 people have been killed after Hurricane Debby made landfall in Big Bend region of the Florida Gulf Coast, leaving residents coping with flooding, power outages, and treacherous roads. The weather system strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane late on Sunday and came ashore near Steinhatchee on Monday morning, said the National Hurricane Center. It is now expected to move slowly across the state, packing 80-mile-per-hour winds and dumping as much as 30 inches of rain as it moves north. The 4th named storm of the season is also forecast to soak Georgia and South Carolina in the days ahead. Authorities said that the dead included a 13-year-old boy who was killed when a tree fell on his mobile home in the town of Levy County, located in Gainesville. In a separate incident in Hillsborough County, parts of the Tampa metropolitan area, a driver of an 18-wheel vehicle lost control and veered into a canal. Holy macaroni. The driver was later found dead. In Dixie County, just west, where did that go? In Dixie County, just west of Gainesville, officials reported that a woman and a 12-year-old were killed when their car crashed Sunday night. So most of them automobile accidents, but deadly storm nonetheless. Catastrophic flooding is also coming to the southeast, and many people are preparing for it as Debby leaves cars completely submerged. Take a look at this. Wow. I don't think there's any recovery there. And hopefully no one is driving that vehicle. Power outage update. Before we started preparing the show, 140,000 without power in Florida, 23,000 in Georgia. Let's refresh this. 132,000 now without power in Florida, 23,000 plus in Georgia. And those numbers will increase as Debby moves through Georgia and continues to linger in the southeast through Wednesday. Full forecast coming now. And the forecast poses potentially historic southeast rainfall threat. What do we mean by that? Well, let's actually refresh this and get the freshest radar we can. Here we are over at the Florida weather radar, and we can see that center of circulation for Tropical Storm Debby just to the west of Brunswick, Georgia. And that's slowly going to just trickle here, maybe move offshore in the next 6 to 9 hours. We'll get the full forecast coming up in just a second. Here we can see this moves through later 10 p.m. Mountain Time, and that the eye continues to hover here just over South Georgia, bringing heavy bands of rain up into South Carolina towards Charleston. Here is the key message for Tropical Storm Debby. But first, let's take a look at the updated position. Let's refresh this. And we are at Advisory 15. Let's refresh that. Yeah, Advisory 15, maximum sustained winds at 45 miles per hour. This will intensify as a more intense tropical storm in the coming hours as it moves offshore. Key message for Debby. Potentially historic heavy rainfall across southeast Georgia and the coastal plain of South Carolina through Saturday morning will likely result in areas of catastrophic flooding. Heavy rainfall will likely result in considerable flooding impacts from portions of central and northern Florida and across portions of central and northeast North Carolina through Saturday morning. What does that mean for you and I? Well, it is Monday. So for the next 6 days, high water threats, river flooding, and devastation for the southeast. But initially, dangerous storm surge and tropical storm conditions will spread northward along the southeast coast from northeast Florida to North Carolina through the middle of the week. Storm surge and tropical storm watches and warnings have been issued for portions of these areas, and residents in the storm surge watch and warning areas should follow any advice given by local officials. In portions of Florida where Debby has passed, deadly hazards remain, including downed power lines and flooded areas. Ensure generators are properly ventilated to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning, and exercise caution when using chainsaws and power tools, and drink plenty of water to avoid heat exhaustion. Taking a look at the rainfall totals that have shifted, still a large swath of 16 to 20 inches, some pockets of 20 inches or more north of Charleston there. And bad news for those in red, 12 to 16 inches from central North Carolina all the way down into Georgia. This is a huge impact area where catastrophic flooding, loss of life, and property are going to be happening for the next 6 days. So heed the warnings and your local authorities and evacuate if possible. Now, Debby brings more than just strong storms and evacuations and flooding. 25 cocaine bricks wash ashore in the Florida Keys, all with the same brand name. Can you believe that? The packages, which weigh each about 70 pounds, were seized and have an estimated street value of over $1 million, according to the U.S. Border Patrol. Where do you think all that cocaine goes? Hunter Biden? I do digress. The park fire in Northern California has exploded again this afternoon with pyrocumulonimbus plume reaching 35,000 feet. Holy macaroni. Let's take a look at that. And so the fire continues to spread up in Northern California, and our prayers and thoughts go out to those affected. Here's the full forecast. Debby to bring significant impacts across the southeast, excessive heat for portions of the west and the southwest as well. Debby will slowly track across the southeast the next several days. Tornadoes, catastrophic flash and urban flooding, coastal flooding, rip currents, strong gusty winds are all expected. Meanwhile, a frontal zone across the plains, Great Lakes into the northeast will focus strong to severe thunderstorms and with the potential of excessive rainfall leading to flooding. For the west, heat continues. Here you see those thunderstorm warnings up in the Great Lakes, the heat warnings in the west, and the Debby flooding forecast for the southeast. It's going to be brutal, kids, so buckle up. A quick look at the hail map for August 3rd. 8,000 plus impacted by 1 inch or larger, 491 impacted households impacted by gorilla hail. That was 1 square mile. The big winter chicken dinner for the gorilla hail was in Minnesota. Say it ain't soda, but it's true. Here we are at the GFS model. Let's refresh it. We are at 18Z, and you can see that actually the position is more right here, 1,000 millibars. And for the next 3 to 6 hours, maybe 9 hours, it looks like Debby may move offshore, re-intensify all morning and afternoon, and make landfall again on Georgia sometime tomorrow afternoon, potentially again as a Cat 1 hurricane. It's going to linger around here doing some loop-de-loops and finally be on its way. Hey, but not until the end of next weekend. So you're looking for rain in the southeast continuously for at least the next 6 days, clearing up here on Sunday of next week. That is a catastrophic flooding scenario. Speaking of catastrophic flooding, wow, this video from Trevor Chelsea of the breaching of the Chilcotin landslide just hit hours ago. And there's no audio, which is good news. So this is the beginning of the breach. It's looking slightly catastrophic with a lot of debris there, clearly, but not as catastrophic as other types of floods. So this is only going to come downstream at maybe 5-10 feet debris flow. And as long as it continues like this, there should be a slow release. And in fact, we do have some confirmation on that. This is coming from our Twitter feed or X feed, Oppenheimer Ranch Project at Diamond the Dave. So go follow us there. And you can also follow us on Facebook at David Mariello, Diamond and Oppenheimer Ranch Project. plasma, geology, solar shutdown, and many others that I control here. Here is a later version of that view earlier today. So in this version, we can see that now the breach has been deeply incised. It has come to some kind of a stasis here, and now the Chilcotin River, as the debris moves downstream, not that catastrophic of an event, more of a draining of a temporary reservoir behind the landslide. And hopefully this cuts down all the way through the landslide debris to the base of the original river. That's the hopes of many people here. And maybe, hopefully, it doesn't breach and damage this bridge in any way, but I'm sure they'll have to shore that up in the future. But the Chilcotin River has breached at the landslide damming and is now flowing downstream towards Hope, British Columbia. So I'm sure we'll get some reports in the morning of what this type of flow is doing, but now you know. Quick seismic update. Very low level activity worldwide. Good news. Interesting rumbler on the East Coast here, 2.5 in Tennessee. Might be some activation of that deep underground military base activity, perhaps. There are military bases in Tennessee, specifically in, well, Berkeley, West Virginia, right on the Tennessee border there. I do digress. Overall, low level activity worldwide. Quick look over at the Reykjanes Peninsula shows an uptick in seismic activity, which is a precursor for the next eruption. Has it gone boom? Well, we could go to the live stream, but the weather there is preventing us. But it seems as activity in the Reykjanes Peninsula is ticking up, and the next eruption will happen anytime soon. Hopefully I'll be awake for it. As we report on the rest of worldwide volcano news, we've got Beko today, 13,000 foot, Ibu to 8,000, Liwa Toby puffing to 10,000, Merapi to 12,000 foot, Sangay to 20,000 feet. Take a look at Erta Ale in Ethiopia. The eruption continues with lava flows from the southern pit crater. Sabancay to 21,000 feet, Reventador puffing and passing, Ducono to 8, Fuego to 15,000, Abeco to 13, Santiaguito to 14, Chevaluche puffing and passing today. Ibu on the list again at 8,000 foot puff, Fuego to 16, Sangay to 20, Sabancay to 24,000, Reventador 14,000 foot puff, Sakurajima on the list, 14,000 foot puff, Nevado de Ruiz to 20,000 feet, Ducono to 8, Semaru to 15. Who knew? Now you do. And this is wrapping up the list. Sangay, 21,000 foot puff. Santa Guido to 14. Ducono to 8. Ibu to 8. Nevado de Ruiz. Liwa Toby to 10. Wrapping up the list. Holy macaroni. Space weather news. This morning I woke up early and was flabbergasted as M flares and X flares were kicking off the limb. In fact, 2 X flares today, an X1.7 followed by an extremely impulsive X1.1. The X1.7 was on the departing region here, AR3767, as it was in fact around, away from the limb, which is good news for us. Here we are at the ISWA Signet streamer, and you can see that that X flare is headed directly away from us, not a glancing blow possible. It is going to absolutely smash Mars. So that's good news because no one's ever going to live there. And then the second impulsive flare coming hours later from a new incoming region right here. Yes. The X1.1 solar flare around AR3780 was responsible for a coronal mass ejection that appears to be headed to the east and away from Earth. So neither of these X flares are geo-effective, but active region 3780, quite large and impressive, will be Earth-facing starting tomorrow and maintain its position for the next 6 days in the geo-effective region. Let's look at the latest HMI and see where that sunspot is right now. Yeah. So in 24 hours, it will be geo-effective, lasting for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days or so as it moves away, as it moves its way across the disk. Current X flare potential is hovering at 25%, which is quite high. So buckle up, Buttercup. We are at Solar Max, and we could be seeing some interesting activity over the next week. So stay tuned for the next boom. Now, 2 months after Starliner launched, astronauts, after 7 years of failures and wait times, they finally got them into space, but they're stuck there. They are lost in space, and now the mainstream media is covering for Boeing gone, as their stock tanks and their astronauts are stranded. Guess who's coming to save them? Elon Musk. Yes, it's only Starlink that can save these astronauts, as they've now been stuck 2 months longer than their anticipated stay on the space station. How stupid does Boeing think we are? How much money have they paid the mainstream media to not report on these stranded astronauts? And how much of an amazing human being is Elon Musk to delay his Starlink satellite launch to maybe save some astronauts? I guarantee you, if he saves the astronauts, the Biden administration will not give him a hero's welcome, because they're nothing but communists and scumbags, in my opinion. Have you heard Japan's share benchmark soars nearly 11% a day after massive sell-off that shook Wall Street? Yeah, it was the biggest glut in the Japanese market since 1987, and the last 2 days in the U.S. stock market haven't been good as well. Friday was a sell-off, and now Monday, the Dow Jones slumps over 1,000 points as fears about the U.S. economy intensify. Well, it could be that the Democratic Party is surging in the polls, and that means perpetual wars and perpetual, devastation for the human population. It means long-term recession, potentially runaway inflation, and you know what happens at wartime. Billions of dollars are made for the defense contractors while every single citizen suffers. Our children die at war, and we suffer in the supermarkets as the supply chain breaks down, and, well, you know the drill. War is for governments to make money, not for you to be safe. You want to know how to be safe? Move to a rural area, opt out of all this garbage, start growing your own food and building your own structures, and stop listening to what they tell you to do. If you are taking 10 or 12 pharmaceuticals and you're 50 years or older, you're part of the problem. They've got you this way. I haven't taken any pharmaceutical drugs in over 15 years. I'm now in my mid-50s, and I will never take a pharmaceutical if I can for the rest of my life. I want to die in peace. I don't want to be killed by a hospital. The way you do that is you eat whole foods that you grow yourself with no pesticides, open pollinated heirloom, where there are nutrient-dense foods that when you eat them, you get more nutrition than anything in the entire supermarket. That's as simple as it is. Come over to the Alliance of Native Seed Keepers. Get your open pollinated heirloom seeds, $2 a pack. Use coupon code ORP2024 for 10% off, and continue to fight. Hello. And that's a boom to knowledge. Please share this video, as we are shadow banned and we need your help to grow. Become a Patreon, support the work we do. We love you. Be safe. And that is a boom. Remember, November is fast approaching, and we need to vote for the future you want to see.